Tucker Carlson speechless at the truth about Hunter Biden's laptop.
So you've written about this for several years now, pretty conclusively, I would say. You had an amazing book on Hunter Biden's laptop, which sort of substantiates a lot of what you're saying. But no one has ever been punished for it. There was no effect, really.
The saga of Hunter Biden's laptop is not merely a scandal of political corruption, but a deeply unsettling glimpse into the mechanisms of suppression wielded by powerful institutions. As Miranda Devine points out, the story has been extensively reported and substantiated, yet no meaningful consequences have followed. This lack of accountability raises pressing questions about the systems of power that operate beyond public scrutiny, shaping narratives in ways that silence uncomfortable truths.
No, so that's why I wrote the second book, The Big Guy, which is Joe Biden's code name that Hunter Biden's former business partners like Tony Bobulinski had to use to refer to Joe Biden because the family was so paranoid about his involvement. And I think, the first book, The Laptop from Hell, that we at the New York Post wrote about and then got censored by big tech. At the time, that was before the 2020 election, and we didn't really understand how this was happening. We just thought, Twitter and Facebook are just woke and they want Joe Biden to win, so they're censoring us. But what we found out after the election, in part thanks to Elon Musk opening up the Twitter files, and also because of a whole lot of once the Republicans took the House in 2022, or after 22, they got to subpoena a whole lot of documents and also interview witnesses. Plus, whistleblowers from the FBI told us that the reason that Twitter and Facebook censored us was because they'd been warned by the FBI for weeks ahead of our story even appearing to look out for a Russian hack and leak operation, likely in October, likely involving Hunter Biden.
This quote captures the essence of the censorship surrounding the laptop story. Initially dismissed as the result of woke corporate bias, the deeper reality emerged later, revealing that the FBI had actively primed social media companies to suppress the story. By painting it as a potential Russian operation before it even surfaced, the FBI ensured that platforms like Twitter and Facebook would discredit it immediately. The influence of whistleblowers and the revelations from the Twitter files have since exposed this deliberate coordination, highlighting the alarming intersection of federal agencies and private tech companies.
And so when Twitter and Facebook saw our story on October 4th,
the FBI's covert surveillance of Rudy Giuliani and access to his communications with John Paul McIsaac reveal the extent of their involvement in this case. The laptop itself had been in their possession for nearly a year, yet they chose to discredit it publicly, labeling it as disinformation. This level of surveillance, paired with deliberate disinformation campaigns targeting legitimate reporting, represents a significant abuse of power. It raises serious concerns about the weaponization of intelligence agencies against narratives that threaten political elites.
And 2 days later, Joe Biden gets up on stage with Donald Trump in the last debate, and he uses that letter to basically get out of jail free, and the story never ever became anything. But what we now know is that that letter was not just signed by these formers, but that it was cleared by the internal CIA classification review board in record time. And even they saw it and thought it was overtly political just 3 weeks before an election. So they sent it upstairs to Gina Haspel, who was then the CIA director under Donald Trump. And she gave it the green light to be published immediately. And so the Dirty 51 letter was actually a domestic CIA interference operation with the election. And that just boggles your mind.
The infamous Dirty 51 letter allowed Joe Biden to dismiss the laptop story during a pivotal debate, effectively neutralizing the issue. As Devine explains, the CIA played a central role in fast-tracking the letter, even as officials acknowledged its overtly political nature. This admission exposes a troubling precedent. The use of intelligence agencies to interfere in domestic elections under the guise of safeguarding democracy. The implications of this operation extend far beyond one election, pointing to systemic issues that demand accountability.
Joe Biden, people underestimate his aggressiveness. He's very good at it. He's very nasty. And so if you ask him a question he doesn't like, it's almost like this narcissistic rage. It's quite frightening, and you see reporters recoil. And you ask him anything around Hunter's sort of, or the family corruption, because it's just also Joe's younger brother, Jim Biden. He gets very aggressive and nasty and pushes back.
Joe Biden's personal demeanor plays a role in shaping the narrative surrounding his family's business dealings. As Devine notes, his aggressive responses to questions about Hunter's activities have effectively discouraged deeper inquiries. This approach, coupled with institutional suppression, has allowed significant allegations of corruption to remain largely unaddressed, leaving the public with more questions than answers. The story of Hunter Biden's laptop is a striking example of the complex interplay between power, influence, and the active suppression of inconvenient truths. It isn't just about a wayward son or a forgotten laptop. It's about the mechanisms that powerful institutions deploy to protect their own. From the FBI's covert surveillance of Rudy Giuliani to the CIA's expedited clearance of a politically charged letter, the narrative exposes a system that prioritizes narrative control over transparency and accountability. The orchestration behind these efforts reveals a deeply entrenched network of influence, where media, government agencies, and political figures work in concert to shield not just individuals, but the broader establishment from scrutiny. As Devine underscores, this suppression wasn't solely about Hunter Biden. It served to protect a sprawling network of power that relies on secrecy and deniability to maintain its hold. The interconnected roles of government agencies and influential figures highlight how accountability is often sacrificed to preserve the status quo. Perhaps the most chilling detail comes from this quote.
We found out after the election, in part thanks to Elon Musk opening up the Twitter files, and also because of a whole lot of once the Republicans took the House in 2022, or after 22, they got to subpoena a whole lot of documents and also interview witnesses. Plus, whistleblowers from the FBI told us that the reason that Twitter and Facebook censored us was because they'd been warned by the FBI for weeks ahead of our story even appearing to look out for a Russian hack and leak operation, likely in October, likely involving Hunter Biden. And so when Twitter and Facebook saw our story on October 14, 2020, they recognized it immediately as the Russian hack and leak dump.
How would the FBI know?
What does this story reveal about the intersection of power, media, and governance? How can the public ensure accountability in an environment where truth is so easily suppressed? Share your thoughts in the comments below.